Hey everyone, Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com, and some of you may remember the eTeknix Prodigy. It was probably the best Mini-ITX case that's ever existed. The sad thing is, no one's ever really done anything to rival it, until now. Let's take a look at the NZXT H1. Unleash the Kraken Z63 AIO cooler from NZXT. Their latest all-in-one liquid cooler is unlike anything else on the market, featuring a built-in LCD display so you can completely customize the look of your CPU cooler with GIFs and cam data. Featuring powerful cooling from a 280mm radiator, a 7th gen Acertech pump, impressive socket support, and an amazing 6-year warranty. To find out more, click the link in the description below. So at the time of actually filming this, NZXT reached out to us and they said that they had a new chassis. The funny thing is, I've actually seen this chassis before at Computex. Essentially what they had at Computex was two rooms. They had one where they were showing off kind of, all the products that were coming out that were basically ready for production. And then they had a separate room that was kind of an NDA room. So everything inside that room, you wasn't allowed to take pictures as a member of the press, you wasn't allowed to talk about it. It was all kind of pre-production prototype stuff. And that included this, the H1. Now, we know straight away that it's going to come in two colours, black and white, and I have actually requested the white one. Obviously on the box you get kind of a first view of how it's going to look. It does look black, but it is actually tempered glass. Quite a small footprint straight away, I guess reminiscent of what we've seen from Silverstone with their Fortress chassis. Packaging wise, very, very good. What we'd kind of expect, and the fact that they're not using polystyrene, so I know I can touch this and not get shocked. But yeah, I mean, my whole point at the start of this video was that no one's really released anything on Mini-ITX for quite some time. And like I mentioned, eTeknix, I guess, had that market sewn up to a certain degree because there was no one really out there doing anything. At the end of the day, you have to remember that Mini-ITX is quite a niche market, shall we say. I love it because the amount of power you can really get into a system without taking up a huge footprint. And while I did like chassis like the eTeknix Prodigy and some of the other ones that came out, I didn't like the fact that they were more elongated instead of high. And that's what I really liked about Silverstone with their Fortress chassis. And that's essentially what we've actually got here in terms of the H1. They wanted to build something that wasn't going to take up a huge amount of room, but still had the reminiscence of, say, the H200, the H500, the H700, and then consequently the 510, the 710, the Elite, and so forth. And this is what we're left with. So we have something that, I don't know, in my eyes kind of gives us the view of sort of competing with the design choices of what we've had on Macs from Apple. It has this mesh sort of paneling on basically three sides, which is obviously going to help with ventilation. And in the reviewer's guide, NZXT have made it very, very clear that what this chassis has to offer in terms of performance, temperatures, acoustics, ventilation is supposedly very, very good. So that is something that, maybe we'll look at in the future. But one thing that really stood out to me was that they actually said that you could build this whole system in around 15 minutes. So I'm going to put that to the test today. And I can see where they're coming from because with this chassis, it actually comes with a power supply and an AIO cooler built in, which sounds pretty nuts, but I can sort of see where they're going with this. So pricing wise, we're looking at $249.99 for just the parts inside. So that's the SFX-L 650 watt gold power supply and the 140mm AIO cooler. Add on the price to the chassis and you've got a total unit cost of $349 or $349.99 US. So that basically tells me that the chassis itself is essentially worth $99, sorry, which is pretty damn good value for money. Now, we do have a few kind of weird design choices in terms of the kind of rear I/O and things like that. So everything actually gets channeled out the bottom. So when we look at the bottom, you can see that we have our power supply connector with a routed cable that goes straight to the power supply. We have the room for our expansion slots, the motherboard I/O, and then when it's actually sitting up on your desk, you'll see that everything can route out the bottom. Nice, neat, tidy, and away you go. Then on the top, we have our USB Type-C, we have our USB Type-O, we have a headphone microphone jack, we have a power button. Other than that, there's not really too much to talk about in terms of the outside. It's very, very clean looking. The fact that I've got the white one, it's white on all sides apart from the back, where it is black, and then obviously the front is tempered glass. Branding wise, very, very subtle. NZXT, there's nothing really over the top on the outside, and I like that. It's quite understated. So let's have a look at the inside before we can actually get started with this 15-minute build. So to open the case, NZXT have always been a big fan of having a toolless design, and this is no different. It's just a matter of kind of taking the front panel and removing it because it does have these little notches on there. So this is the kind of only tempered glass panel on there. If we turn the rear around, we can kind of do the same thing in terms of pulling it out, and off it comes. Then this kind of gives you the first view of what you have inside. So some of the internal components. So we can see straight away the riser for the GPU. We can see part of the AIO and the power supply cabling. As we turn around this side, we can see again part of the power supply up here, a little bit of the riser with the connector that will actually go into your motherboard. And we can actually see sort of where different components will come into contact with the components that you're going to put inside. Obviously, we don't really have a full view of it. So instead, we can slide this off and we can get a much better view of kind of what we're dealing with. Now, before I actually put this down, I do want to show you that there are two dust filter elements. So one on this side and one on that side. And to remove them, you literally just take them out, and they are magnetic. So if I actually turn this around, I can show you guys how easy it is to just pull these off, and you can see the magnets that are kind of holding it in place, and away you go in terms of cleaning it. So nice and easy. Like I say, NZXT have always kind of prided themselves on being ones for having a toolless design. So now we can get an even better view of what's going on. So again, the power supply, and that's going to be exhausting out the side through that dust filter. You can see that we have our radiator here, so any hot air should be pushed out the side as well. And then on this side, we can see that we have our accessory box, which we can take straight out, and then this will give us a better view of kind of what's going on in terms of where the motherboard placement is going to be, what kind of connectors we have for the power supply. So we have PCI Express, we have SATA, we have all of our connectors coming up to the top panel. So yeah, everything seems pretty self-explanatory. So I guess really what we want to do is have a look at sort of how the motherboard's going to go in there, what components I'm also going to be using, and just get a general feel for how easy this build is going to be to actually do, especially if NZXT are claiming for it to only really take about 15 minutes. So I do want to talk about what we actually get included, because I can't see there being much, purely for the reason of what I said, that NZXT don't really do screws, fixtures and fittings. They try and keep everything kind of, you know, screwless, toolless, however you want to word it. So we have the instructions, we have a power cable depending on what country you're in. Obviously I'm in the UK, so I've got that. And then not much else. So there are a few little things in terms of adapters for the front panel connectors on the top. So you've got your hard drive LED, power LED. There's also a connector for the audio to convert it from the single jack into a microphone and also a headphone jack. And then we have all the fixtures and fittings for, I guess, your platform of preference. So whether you're going AMD or Intel for the AIO. Other than that, the only other thing, and I can see it straight away, and obviously I have looked through the reviewer's guide to try and figure it out, is getting the motherboard tray sort of ready for your motherboard. So I'm going to put these things just to one side because we're not actually going to need them until the end. And I want to make sure that I've got kind of as much room as I physically can. Now, straight away, you'll probably see that there is a motherboard tray. I want to say a motherboard tray. A fake foam one. It's really to protect the AIO from damage in transit. Now what they actually say is that you're meant to slide this out, but to slide it out actually involves kind of lifting it off the standoffs and trying to squeeze it out. But the problem is the AIO is actually kind of sandwiched in between. So in my honest opinion, I think the best way is actually going to be to unscrew the radiator mounting. So remove screws pointed by arrows and lift to open. So let's give it a go. I think this is probably going to be the best way of doing it, just to kind of give a little bit more room. Now, I don't know whether they intend to include this in this 15-minute timer, but I'm classing it as kind of preparation as opposed to the full-on build, because there are certain things that, you know, with your motherboard, can you really be expected to, you know, get everything prepared on the motherboard, your SSD and your CPU in. Does that come under the 15 minutes? I'm not sure, but I think this is honestly the best way of doing things, because obviously we have to take off this piece of foam. We can then slide this out. So this is basically a makeshift foam motherboard tray so that we're kind of essentially ready to actually start installing things. Other than that, there's a few little things, I guess, provisos on the case that it tells you to do before you actually kind of get started, before you build and things like that. So on top of the AIO, it tells us to position the tubes outwards before closing. On the tubes, it says do not fold or crimp tubes. You have to remember that you do have to be a little bit more careful with a case like this because of the space that you have. Things can only go, I guess, a certain way. So motherboard tray and everything is now out. I say motherboard tray, the protective foam. Can put that to one side, and I guess now we can actually move on to getting everything prepared. So I've chosen sort of the components that really put things to the test, because NZXT in their reviewer's guide and all the communication that I've actually had with them, they made it very, very clear that this is an extremely good performing case. In terms of generally Mini-ITX are very restrictive of airflow, but they're very, very clear that that's not the case with this. I think that's a lot of it is down to the design and the fact that you have an AIO built into it. The power supply is exhausting out the same way as the AIO. So everything should be good. So I wanted to really put that to the test. So that's why we've gone with the Ryzen 9 3900X. I mean, if you're going to do things and you really want to test it to its maximum, put in things that are really going to test it to the maximum. So Ryzen 9 3900X. Because of that, obviously we want to go X570. Mini-ITX, so pretty much the most feature-packed Mini-ITX board out there, the X570i Aorus Pro Wi-Fi. Obviously that gives us extra connectivity options because of the Wi-Fi. It gives us things like PCIe Gen 4. It gives us everything that we need. Speaking of Gen 4, we've got the Aorus drive to match. So this is the Aorus NVMe Gen 4 SSD. This is a 1TB drive, which in my opinion is going to be more than enough for sort of the average gamer out there, the average enthusiast. You can actually put SSDs in here, but the price difference, I guess, between an SSD on the 2.5-inch form factor and the M.2 form factor is pretty negligible if you're talking SATA versus SATA. If you want sort of performance and that extra increase in speed for enthusiasts and gaming, then obviously you're going to look to NVMe. I just wanted to take it a little bit further and have everything matching, so I went with Gen 4. In terms of memory, I wanted to stick with the whole gigabyte thing, because now that I've got the motherboard and the drive, may as well stick with the memory as well. So this is the Aorus RGB memory. It's actually a 2x8 gig kit, but it actually comes with 4 modules. The reason that it does that is 2 of them are actually dummy modules, but being a Mini-ITX board, it's only got 2 slots on there, so we're only actually going to be using 2 of these. And then graphics card wise, I looked at, again, the specifications and wanted to see what was the maximum we could do. And there's actually 2 maximums you can do with this particular case. And maybe we'll put these up on screen because you can't really expect me to remember all the details, but we'll just flag all the specs up on screen in post. What you'll actually find is that you could go slightly shorter in the graphics card, but slightly fatter. I know you can go up to 2.5 times the thickness, or you can go slightly longer and slightly thinner. So I actually looked into it and tried to find the most powerful graphics card I have that could basically fit into that specifications. And that's where the Gigabyte RTX 2080 Super Gaming OC came into it. So triple fan cooler, bonkers performance, should pair really, really nicely with the Ryzen 3900X. So with all that in mind, I guess it's time to start the timer once I get everything prepared. So I'll get everything out of the box, get everything prepared, and then we'll start the timer for this 15-minute challenge to sort of see if we can build in this in 15 minutes, see if it boots, see if everything goes together without a hitch. It's not going to, I know it's not, but I thought I'd put this challenge on myself and we'll go from there. So yeah, let's get everything out of the box and get rocking. So I've got everything out. I'm basically ready to go. I feel like I'm under immense pressure, but we're going to see kind of how it goes. I'm not saying that I'm not going to have to refer to the instructions, which I'm going to just find, because it's the first time building in a case like this. So even people like myself who have built thousands upon thousands of computers are always going to have issues and things like that along the way. So I feel like I should do some light stretching. Just kind of, you know, get prepared, get limbered up. Let's do this. 3, 2, 1, go. So I am actually going to do things quite quickly. Normally in videos I'd probably explain a little bit more in detail as to kind of what I'm doing. So I've put the CPU in, that's the 3900X. I'm now going to put the NVMe drive. So there's two places on this motherboard where you can actually put it. You can put it underneath the fan or you can put it on the back. Because of the huge heatsink that actually comes on this drive, I am going to put it into the back so that it's kind of hidden. I'm not saying it's the ugliest drive in the world, but it's not exactly good looking, shall we say. And then we have our memory. So that can go in there. And then the other module, like I say, if you have got a board that's got 4 DIMM slots, Gigabyte actually give you kind of the ability to use some dummy modules. So that is that. Now, I said about referring to the instructions, I'm pretty much there already because I just don't want to get it wrong and then find that I'm, I don't know, wasting time, should we say. So it talks to us about clearance, motherboard installation. So it tells us to actually have it this way up and to just slide it in. It literally should be that easy. So if we actually move this back, put the AIO up there. Okay, we have got a bag full of cable ties, and in all honesty, I probably should have uncable tied this and got it all prepared to start with, because there are connectors for the AIO as well as front panel connectors, which I'm going to try and put to one side, and then we have our power supply connectors, which I don't know if that's going to be enough room. Right, I'm going to keep that like that. I want to get the motherboard in first. So, motherboard wise, obviously the rear I/O is going to face downwards. So if we move that out of the way, we can actually get this all kind of lined up pretty much where we need it to be, which is about there. Now, I did mention that obviously NZXT are ones for not using a lot of screws, but in this instance, there obviously is 4 screws to put the motherboard down. So, there's a lot of cable ties, which are actually going to come in handy on a case like this, purely because on a case like this, obviously room and space comes at a premium. So therefore, you want to make sure that you're kind of utilising it in the best way possible. So let's try and get the motherboard at least screwed down. Then everything else, in theory, should, and I say should, fall into place. So for the most part, this is kind of the only real screws that you're going to need. Obviously, I am aware that I'm going to have to prepare for the AIO, but because I'm using the AMD platform, generally speaking, and I hope that I'm right on this one, you actually utilise the existing back retention plate behind the motherboard. So if this was Intel, obviously you'd have to put something in there, but I'm pretty confident that you could still get to it if need be. So let's get the full screw in. And I want to say we're like halfway there now. I don't need to worry about thermal paste because the AIO does actually have it included. Expansion card, I think it's going to be pretty damn easy. I want to say it's going to be pretty damn easy. It's just trying to utilise where things are meant to sort of come out, where things are meant to go. So I'm actually going to put that in just so it's in, basically. And I apologise if I'm not giving you guys the best view possible. I might actually do the front panel headers first. Yeah, I'm going to do the front panel headers. So we have USB 3.0, we have HD audio. Yep, we have, okay, so this is really cool. NZXT have actually put all the front panel headers onto one pinout, which is quite nice. We also have the USB Type-C, which I'm actually looking at it, and this motherboard doesn't have an internal USB Type-C header. So I'm not sure if there's a converter with it, or yeah, I will look into that in a minute. So front panel, I feel like I'm under so much pressure here. Trying to get this on, and I don't even know how well you guys can actually see what's going on. I'm putting all my trust and faith into my handy cameraman. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have put the memory in, because now trying to get the front panel header on Okay, is on. So we can sort of cover that down there. 24 pin, they've actually positioned it pretty damn well that you don't need to take the Velcro off by the looks of it. You should. Yes, okay, so 24 pins on. USB Type-C HD audio is over there, so that's fine. So Type-C, annoyingly, I'm not going to use. You might consider this cheating, but if the motherboard hasn't got it, then kind of what can really be expected of me? There is actually the hard drive cage over here, so if you wanted to hide wires, you could do that pretty damn easily. So USB 3.0 in there. Try and sort of bring the wire around. I just want to try and make this as clean as possible, just to kind of increase the airflow as much as I physically can as well. HD audio can go over there, which I still stand by. On motherboards, HD audio is probably the worst panel header ever, just because why is it all the way over there? I mean, I know why it's over there, but it's just, surely they could find a better way of doing it. So, preparing the backplate. That's for Intel. Installing the backplate, Intel. Like I say, I just want to make sure that I'm doing it. Yes, okay. So they actually use, because there's different ways of preparing things, but on AMD, generally they use the existing retention bracket, and then sometimes they screw into the 4, or other times you actually have to take this off, which is exactly what we're going to do, without trying to get thermal paste on us. And then that's quite a nice little design. It literally just pushes off. And then putting this one on, whereas other ones actually sort of screw on in different places. So that was probably the easiest thing in the world. So what we're going to use is the existing lugs with these kind of clips, which involve having this and this. So I'm just trying to get my positioning right now. So that's going up that way, so that's going in that way. I think that's right, or no, I've done it the wrong way. So, positioning that in there, screwing that down, and I have no idea how we're doing for time. About halfway or so, I'm told. So yeah, this is definitely the most intense video I've ever made. And I'm hoping that it's all going to come out very, very nicely and not boring for you guys, because that would be a shame if that was the case. So, yeah, I've done it completely wrong. So there you go, guys. Even I'm not perfect. I've actually put the bracket on the wrong way. It's because I'm trying to do it upside down. Jesus. Trying to do it upside down, and I figured that, yeah, I did it ever so slightly wrong. So that's why it was telling me to do it this way. Okay, I can now get this screwed on. And not too tight, because obviously we want to get it on to the lugs nice and evenly. But that is basically it, preparing it, and then, yeah. Right, so we can now move this over, make sure we have this turned around the right way to actually clasp onto the lugs. And then, in theory, we don't need to put any thermal paste on because the cooler already has some on there. We're going to turn the tubes in just so we can kind of get the positioning right. And I'm going to put that one on first because I can't really see. And then that one onto there. And then we can continue, once I find my screwdriver, to screw it down into place. And then we can take the tubes and actually kind of position them and get the AIO back down. Get any other connectors that we need to get actually installed. So tubes kind of sit down there. Other tube sits down there. We also have our 8-pin connector, which for some reason they've actually cable tied in with a zip tie, which makes no sense whatsoever. because it doesn't actually give you enough room or enough slack, which seems like the most stupid thing in the world. I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing something, but this doesn't make sense to me, because if I turn this around to show you guys, here's where our 8-pin connector needs to go, our EPS, and here's this. So essentially the only way of doing that, I'm hoping there's some more slack that I can kind of rely on, because otherwise I'm going to have to actually undo the Velcro strap to get this on there. I don't think there's enough slack, at least how it's looking at the moment. And when I say there's not enough, like, I'm talking really, really tight. Might actually be able to get it in, just. Oh, I'm sweating now. See, I'm trying to show you guys exactly what I'm doing, while also trying to do it and see exactly what's going on. So I'm going to turn this round just so I can do what I've got to do. But yeah, this is very, very tight. It's one of the things where you need to kind of go further to then bring it in closer to you. But we're almost there. Oh, okay, 8-pin is on. So the only other connectors are for the pump and the fan. So we have CPU fan up here. And then the one for the fan we can plug into any other connector. Give me a connector. Why is there no connectors? Okay, so there's one CPU fan header there. Okay, the only other one is all the way over here. So it's not going to be the neatest job. If I had more time, obviously it'd be a completely different story. Right, graphics PCI Express riser is now going to go in. This can now go back down. Damn, that's tight. That's what she said. How are we doing on time?
We've got about 2.5 minutes left.
2.5 minutes to get a graphics card in and essentially to get it booted up. Why do I feel like I've forgotten a million different things? Right, graphics card. So we have thumb screws. Again, tallest design, NZXT, that I've already spoken about. Oh, God, this is getting close now. I thought I had more time. I honestly thought that I had more time. So, am I going to do it though? That's on. Screws. Seriously, I've never been under so much pressure. And I'm sure you guys, if you're watching this at the time of launch, there's probably a lot of other videos out there where they're really taking a nice relaxed approach to this case and, you know, trying to work out sort of, you know, what could be fitted into it and what the flow of air is going to be like and ventilation. They're going into all this technical stuff, and here's me just trying to build things as quickly as I can and trying to get a single bloody screw in. Time?
Got about 1 minute 30 left.
1 minute 30. Get in, last screw. Ugh. Right, side panels. That way. So, okay, because this isn't hard to line up at all. That's that. Back panel, front panel. Which side is which? I guess that side is that side. And, oh no, I didn't put the power into the graphics. No! So I put the graphics card in, but I haven't actually put in any supplementary power into it whatsoever. It's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong. 8-pin. You know what? They said about 8 minutes. 15 minutes. Because I'm putting in the 8-pin. They said about. So if it's 15 and a bit, if it's 16, I don't think it's going to matter that much. But I'm going to be honest, I am impressed. I mean, I don't know why, I just assumed it would take longer, but having the power supply in, the AIO in, just, yeah. See, now I'm making silly little mistakes, putting it in the wrong way. Come on. Time, power, give me power. I'm using a power lead that literally can't fit because it's right angled. I need another power lead. There's no other power lead. There's no other power lead. I think it's done. There's literally no way. There's no way of me actually even telling what's going on here. But I think it's done. We're going to find a power lead.
I'll pause it, we'll find it.
Okay, I found a cable, but it's technically the shortest cable in the world. So I've had to move the extension lead up onto here. I heard a noise. Power.
Oh no, I think there's an internal switch on the inside.
Yep. Is there?
I saw it. I saw look at it on off. I think it's literally in the. There you go. Hey.
It's on. Get in. Done. Time.
16 minutes and 19 seconds.
Okay, so something is in the way, but it's done. The whole aim was to get it done in a reasonable time. 16 minutes I'm happy with. Obviously, I would have taken a bit more pride in cable management. I'm guessing it's something getting in the way of the AIO. So, funnily enough, it's not a cable, it's actually a piece of paper that NZXT actually put onto the tubing of the AIO that kind of got in the way. So this little bit here that I'm going to try and pull out so that it doesn't kind of flounder back in again. If it's the one that says please, like, you know, get it out of the way, that's really going to annoy me. But yeah, this little bit of paper, do not something crimp, yeah, that. So it's on. I did it in about 15 minutes. And I'm going to be honest, yes, I was going a little bit quick. Yes, I didn't take loads of pride in it, but I honestly believe, guys, that obviously we'll do this as well. Ready? Should we see if we can get some nice pill noise on it? Ready? Oh, beautiful. Honestly think that if I took a little bit more time and pride and stuff like that, I still only think it would have taken maybe less than 30 minutes, which I think is pretty impressive. I mean, I've done speed builds before that haven't needed to boot and stuff, but it's taken a lot less time than that, but, you know, sort of thrown the components around, not really cared about them, that kind of thing. This, in all honesty, I think the cable management is okay for kind of what we was trying to do. The choice of components that we've got are extremely extreme. That's kind of the only way I can explain it. And I did sort of mention, you know, performance and things like that, because NZXT have said that they prided themselves on making this, you know, fantastic performing. I can actually feel some of the air being pushed out this side. So if you guys want to see it, maybe in another video, we'll actually take a look at the performance of, you know, what we're talking about in terms of acoustics, temperatures, and sort of see what the actual airflow is like, because I think we're all going to be pleasantly surprised. And I actually know the people who, specifically at NZXT, who have developed this, and I do trust their work because I've known them for many, many years, and I believe that they are very, very good at what they do. That was probably the most intense thing I've ever done on camera, apart from that private video that we should not talk about. ladies. But no, I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. So if you guys want to see a video about sort of performance, acoustics, temperatures, all that kind of stuff, let me know in the comments section below, and maybe, you know, we'll take a little bit more of a lackadaisical kind of look around the case then, to sort of bulk that video out a little bit, to really sort of look at, yeah, why the performance is where it is, why the acoustics are where it is, are these the right components to choose, and so forth. And let me also, guys, also let me know in the comments section, what do you think about the value of this? $349.99 US, but you got to remember that that is the SFX-L 650 watt gold rated power supply, which for the most part is going to be beefy enough for anything. This has got a 2080 Super and a 3900X in it. And I mean, if I was to, you know, do the power at the wall, it's probably not going to be, you know, a great deal because it is Mini-ITX. So you do have future proofing there. So when NVIDIA bring out Ampere, or whether AMD actually bring out, you know, a big Navi, you're going to have the power capabilities already there for you. 140mm AIO, they could have gone with a 120mm, but again, they just wanted that slightly better performance, so they've gone with a 140mm. Probably the better choice in my opinion. So yeah, I like this. And I was actually talking to Tom, our video guy, before this, and sort of commenting about the fact that we was going to build an editing station, but wanted something that basically took up a very, very small footprint. And generally, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, when you do get Mini-ITX cases, they're kind of more elongated, so you'd expect it to be laying on this and be sort of that shape, as opposed to something that takes up a relatively small footprint, because when it's on your desk, you have a lot more height than you do in terms of width, length, depth, you know, whatever. So yeah, maybe this is going to be the one for editing, and maybe this is something that can rival Corsair with their Corsair One. And it's definitely worth noting that NZXT will be selling this as a system integrator through their BLD or build sort of outlet. So if you are in the US, I believe Canada as well, and you are looking at, you want this, but maybe you don't want to build it yourself, there's that option as well. So yeah, hopefully this is the start of something special, and hopefully we start seeing stuff from other brands and competitors to sort of try and rival NZXT, maybe trying to build something similar that's, I guess, a little bit cheaper. But for me, take away the price of the power supply, the AIO, this is a $100 chassis. To me, that's pretty damn impressive. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know exactly what to do. And if you enjoyed this style of video, I'm not saying I want to do it again, but if you did enjoy this style of video, let me know, because maybe we'll do something again with something bigger, maybe, you know, see how quickly I can build a fully fledged system, maybe even a custom loop one, that kind of stuff. There you go, guys. I'll see you in the next one. See you later. Bye-bye.